Welcome to your City Commission meeting. Please turn off or silence all cell phones during the meeting. In accordance with the Kansas Open Meetings Act, the meeting can be viewed on Channel 2 and via Facebook Live. The public is encouraged to view the meeting using one of those options. Leavenworth City Commission meeting is open to the public with limited seating capacity. Refer to the agenda packet on the city website for instructions on reserving a seat and/or submitting comments. Meetings are televised every day on Channel 2 at 7 p.m. and midnight and available for viewing on YouTube and Facebook Live. We will now have the Pledge of Allegiance followed by a silent meditation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item is proclamation, Kiwanis Club of Leavenworth. Would you like to come up? Sure. Whereas Kiwanis International is one of the largest organizations in the world with more than 551,000 members of all ages and abilities in more than 80 nations. And whereas the members of the Kiwanis Club of Leavenworth are devoted to improving the world, one child and one community at a time, by seeking primacy to the human and spiritual rather than material values of life. And whereas in addition to improving the lives of children in Leavenworth, Kansas, and in the communities around the world, Kiwanis Club members promote the development of community leaders, positive role models, intercultural understanding and cooperation, with opportunities for fellowship, personal growth, professional development, and community service. And whereas the first Kiwanis Club started its service in Detroit, Michigan, USA in 1915, and the Kiwanis Club of Leavenworth, Kansas was formed on July 5, 1921, and continues to have a positive impact on our community and citizens. Now therefore I, Nancy Bowder, Mayor of the City of Leavenworth, Kansas, hereby proclaim July 5, 2021 as the Kiwanis Club of Leavenworth Day. Yay, and I have Cindy here, Henry. Would like to say a few words?
Yes. Thank you. Yes, we need that. Thank you for this opportunity to put the spotlight on Kiwanis International and our Kiwanis Club of Leavenworth. Kiwanis is a global organization of volunteers dedicated to improving the world one child and one community at a time. And we would like to invite everyone to our community picnic on July the 10th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Woolman Park. We're giving out hot dogs, chips, and water. So this is a big deal. We are celebrating 100 years in this community. Our club will also have a display case at the Leavenworth Public Library for the whole month of July. So I invite everyone to go check that out. And you can like us and follow us on Facebook, Kiwanis Club of Leavenworth. Thank you all. Thank you for your support.
Okay, next item on the agenda, old business. Consideration of previous meeting minutes. Any comments or questions on the previous minutes or comments or changes? No. If not, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move that we accept the minutes from the June 8th, 2021 regular meeting as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please begin voting. Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
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 Aye. Pass 4-0. The second item on the agenda, consideration ordinances. Second consideration ordinance 8167, adopting the 2030 comprehensive plan.
Madam Mayor and Commission, today is an important day for the City of Leavenworth as we adopt a 10-year comprehensive plan. First City Future Forward represents about 18 months of work through dedicated members of the public, business community stakeholders, the commission, staff, We have well over 125 people involved in this, creating this 10-year comprehensive plan. So look forward to create a better city of Leavenworth in 2030. So tonight we have it on second consideration for final adoption. And then just one note as follow-up, the city staff has received from CHEROKEE Consulting as one of their deliverables, essentially a matrix that has all of the goals outlined in the draft, now about to be the final plan, so that we can begin to implement those plans. The worst thing you can do is spend 18 months on a plan and have it sit on a shelf. So we will begin probably right after budget, assigning goals and tasks to departments, city staff, and we'll include the commission and the public on that process and provide periodic updates as we can. The plan in its final form is currently on the city website, and we encourage our residents to go and read that plan.
Sounds good. Any other questions of Mr. Kramer? Comments? If not, this requires a roll call vote. Please begin voting. Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
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 Pass 4-0. Second, number 4 on the agenda, second consideration ordinance 8168, creating the Leavenworth Land Bank.
Madam Mayor and Commission, another, I think, very important tool for the city of Leavenworth going forward is the creation of the Leavenworth Land Bank. On second consideration, and since we've been working on this for well over a year, I thought I'd just give a brief summary of what the land bank does and what its purpose is in improving our neighborhoods in the city of Leavenworth. So the goal of the land bank is to bring blighted, vacant residential properties back into functional use. Land banks are an essential tools to bring vibrancy back to neighborhoods instead of either crumbling abandoned houses or vacant lots. Among the other cities in Kansas that use these would be the cities of Pittsburgh, Junction City, Hutchinson, Topeka, Kansas City, Kansas, and others. The main benefits of a land bank, first of all, are clearing titles. Abandoned structures in the city often have extremely complex title situations and ownership histories. And this process, a land bank, would return the property to a tax-producing parcel and eliminate costly maintenance that the city might incur if it were demolished, or eliminate a source of the blight in the neighborhood. The second use of a land bank commonly used is to manage foreclosures. In the case of foreclosed properties, it's often out-of-town speculators who purchase properties for potential future use, and they sit there continuing to blight the neighborhood. A land bank allows the city to account for what is best for the city, looking to fast-track blight elimination and rehabilitation of properties, and a land bank allows the city to facilitate the rehabilitation with local proven contractors. And finally, land bank properties can often be voluntary. We come across often a son, a grandson, a daughter, a family member who lives out of town. The property has been abandoned for a number of years. Maybe their grandmother, grandfather's family member has moved into a different living situation, and the house has fallen on complete disrepair and faces demolition, and they simply don't want the property. It has property back taxes, it has code violations, it has assessments as it's continued there to sit and blight the neighborhood. So they are able through this process to grant it to the land bank. That then allows the city to go through a list of pre-approved contractors and get those properties back on the tax rolls. A few closing notes on land banks. Land bank properties do not impact occupied structures. We don't affect anybody currently living in a house. That's not the goal of a land bank. Secondly, the alternative to land bank is either continued blight for neighbors, which we try to address through code enforcement, but that's a tough process to bring about big change, or demolition, which right now is the remedy that we have. Right now, if a structure is abandoned and it's deemed unsafe through the process the city's put in place, the only avenue we have is to demolish it, which leaves a vacant parcel in northeast Leavenworth. Many of these vacant parcels are non-buildable by today's standards. They're 24-foot lot frontages, or they require infill development, which is not attractive to developers. So this gives us a third option to turn these structures back around and put them back into use. And then finally, I think it's important to note that land bank properties will come back to public meetings. The city commission will be the land bank board. So as we move forward with these properties, there is full transparency in the actions that the city would discuss and take, as these would be on agendas and then before the city commission in order to take action. So that's a review of the land bank. The city attorney and myself would be able to answer any other questions you have.
This is something that we have followed for a year, been working on for a year, and it is done elsewhere, and we have so many owners of blighted properties that are out of town, so it's a really good tool that we can use.
Yeah.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, and you said it, but just, just being direct about it. The city cannot come in and take someone's property and then decide to sell it.
Yeah, these are abandoned structures in very special cases.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
No, it's just a good alternative to having it on the demolition list, in terms of an innovative way of reducing blight, and getting unoccupied properties that are dangerous and safe, dealing with them in a kind of an innovative way that I think, that I know would be cost effective. So I appreciate you summarizing the program, Mr. Kramer.
Just real quickly, if we do have a house that comes into the land bank, you would see the city contracting with local contractors to bring it up to code and then offer it for sale.
Right, so that's the part of the land bank is we would have a list of pre-approved contractors, hopefully local, most of the work done local as much as possible. And then if they were accepted as a land bank, then they are able to renovate it and sell it and keep the purchase price. That does not go back to the city of Leavenworth. That would go to the
renovators
contractor.
would do it.
The renovators
Okay.
would reap the benefits of that work.
You stated that it's not the goal of the land bank to take houses away from occupied houses. That's a misstatement, if I'm correct in assumptions. Not the goal. I don't want to say it's not the goal. It's not possible for the land bank to take a house away, an occupied house away from someone.
We've never explored looking at
Yeah,
occupied
we're
houses in
not,
any way.
I mean, that's not only the goal, but
Yeah, I mean,
we're not doing that.
Yeah, no, I mean, outside of, foreclosure processes and all of that for unpaid taxes, all of that, but there isn't the authority to
Yeah.
go in and just evict people.
And
that regard.
just as we do with blighted houses now, if they're occupied, we don't, they don't go on the demo list.
They're not even considered for the demolition list, and the only, we are considering properties that are on the demolition list for land bank. So they would have to pass two hurdles, one being put on the demolition list, which we don't even consider occupied structures, and then from that list is where we would draw the land bank properties.
This, like I said, this is not something new. This is, years ago when I worked in Community Development Corporation of Leavenworth, that's one of the things that we were working with doing as well. And other cities have done it for years and years. This is not anything new. And I think it's a good option for our city.
Yeah,
It's my
and this is pursuant to state law. The Kansas legislature created this, allowing cities to do that. So that should be a point as well, that this is something
Yes.
that was considered at the state level. I think the last time some changes were about 2009 or so. But this is something that cities are specifically authorized to do by the state legislature.
Sounds good. Any other questions, comments? If not, this calls for a roll call. Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 4-0, thank you. New business, public comment. Items not listed on the agenda are receipt of petitions. Public comment is limited to 2 to 3 minutes, and no action will be taken by the commission on public comment items. Anyone here? Okay, thank you. Next item, public hearing. Public hearing to consider petition to vacate a part of Maple Street.
Madam Mayor and Commissioner, this item will be handled by Brian Faust, the Director of Public Works.
We need to open the public hearing, correct?
Right.
Okay. I ask for a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please begin voting, Commissioner Wilson. Aye.
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 Okay. Now, comments from the staff and public.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Commission. Geiger Ready Mix owns the property on both the north and south sides of Maple Street, west of 2nd Street, to the alley, roughly 150 feet in length. They have requested that a portion of the street right away adjacent to these properties be vacated. If approved, ownership of the street right-of-way is transferred back to the adjoining property owners, in this case, Geiger Ready Mix. Geiger does intend to construct additional employee parking on the tract along the south side of Maple, and the parking area would encroach on the Maple Street right-of-way. Geiger has also stated they do not plan to close access through this area. We did review the proposal and location and offer the following observations. By limiting the vacation to 150 feet, both the alley and Maple west of the alley will remain open to the public. And by retaining utility easement through this area, current and future utilities can use Maple Street between 2nd and 3rd. Staff is reluctant to recommend that the city relinquish ownership of public property without some public purpose being served. Representatives of Geiger stated that they intend to add additional parking and to leave the access open. They have also been at this location since the mid-1950s and have heavily invested in the plant and equipment, and it is reasonable to assume that they plan to stay there for a long time. The city does have contractual agreements with major utilities to allow them to use the right-of-way, and notification it was sent to all local utility companies, and the responses are noted in your brief sheets and are attached. AT&T did object to the vacation if we impacted the right-of-way on 2nd Street, which we do not, so they're fine with it. Kansas Gas objected to the vacation unless a new gas line was installed. We contacted representatives of Geiger, and they are working with Kansas Gas to resolve this. At this time, we have nothing from Kansas Gas that states they have, that they no longer object. All other utility companies are fine with the vacation. The city engineer's office does not support the proposed vacation with the objection received from Kansas Gas. If Kansas Gas and Geiger do reach an agreement and Kansas Gas no longer objects, the city engineer's office would support this vacation.
So I'll add that this is first consideration tonight, and so it would not come back to second consideration until we have that. We have reason to believe that Kansas Gas, we're almost there with Kansas Gas, but for first consideration, it's a consensus to move forward, and then we would present that at second reading.
Okay. I'm not asking for input yet, but, yes, sir.
I just didn't know if you wanted more input to that.
That would be fine. We're open for public comment now. Are you with?
I'm with Geiger
Yeah.
Ready Mix.
Yes, thank you. Yes, please come to the podium. I was just going to ask if someone from Geiger wanted to come, and I saw Bill sitting there, but I didn't recognize you.
So I'm Billy Daniels, Vice President of Operations with Geiger Ready Mix. Been plant manager here for several years before that. So Leavenworth is hometown. We do try to support Leavenworth all we can. And what we're trying to do is clean things up a little bit, give our employees better parking. We have a lot of on-street parking right now. So this will really clean that up, get us off the street. As far as natural gas, we thought we covered all our bases. Our locates did not show we had a natural gas line there when we did all the locates and all that. And when the city sent that out for the row excavation, that's when we found out. So Kansas Gas was blindsided by this. We weren't able to give them a heads up of what our plans are. I have been in contact with Kansas Gas, Brett Sawyer, daily, and I talked to him this afternoon, waiting. He thinks we can have an answer tomorrow. It's very close, but, it's up to us to work out that agreement with them. But it's looking good. If we do have to reroute the gas line, that will be costly. I think the first estimate was $35,000, so we're trying not to go that route. So their main thing, what they didn't like was they don't want anyone parking over the line, the gas line. What we found is that the original gas line is under the street itself, so we're already parking on that. So this new construction we're doing will actually, we won't be parking there anymore. So that's what we're working out with them. We're hoping they'll sign off on it.
Okay. Mr. Kramer, will this go to the planning commission or after
Nope,
this? Or
no, it would just be on second consideration for the commission.
Okay,
And we had been working on this for quite a while as a way to, as Mr. Daniel said, to get a lot of those cars off the street in that area. Both, it cleans up the neighborhood, it's also a safety issue. So that's the primary goal of this, was to clean up the streets around there of all the employee parking. Plus, as you know, as we know, Geiger's a strong business in town, and so we wanted to support them with
Okay.
looking at giving them some better parking capabilities.
okay. Mr. Geiger, did you have any other comments? No, you're okay? All right, thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
question for Mr. Kramer. If we do go forward on the first consideration, do we just hold second consideration under the final act in abeyance until Geiger and Kansas Gas come back to us either with an agreement or saying we can't reach
I
an
mean,
agreement?
you don't really hold anything in abeyance, you just move it forward on first consideration, knowing that, in order for it to pass on second consideration, that staff would request that they have worked that out with Kansas Gas.
So that doesn't necessarily, it won't necessarily be the next scheduled meeting or regular meeting. It could be,
Yeah.
but it.
We don't
not
have another
necessarily.
regular meeting till July 13th, because of a fifth Tuesday, so it would give
They should have
sufficient
it done
time.
by then.
Yeah,
Well,
we
we
would
will
think
know
so.
one way or the other if they
Right.
come to an agreement. Okay, thank you.
I would also add in your, if you look at section 3 of your packet, we have some draft ordinance there that does make this contingent on that gas line matter being resolved
Okay.
in one way. Depending on how that goes, that easement could be relocated, which is kind of what this contemplates. Otherwise, we could tweak that language to reserve easements for others. You might recall that about at the 7th and Metropolitan Project. We did a little bit of that work with some vacation of right-of-way. We reserved back some easements, and so that language could tweak a little bit depending on how it goes. But as we have this, your consideration would be contingent upon that Exhibit B and that relocation being figured out. So we're going
Okay.
to bring it to you before then.
Okay. Any more comments from the commission or staff or the public? If not, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please begin voting. Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
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 4-0, thank you. First consideration, the next item, first consideration ordinance to vacate. Do we have a consensus to move forward?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Good luck.
Yes, good luck to you. Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Okay, next item is consider approval of the 2021 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant. Good evening, Chief.
Good morning, or good evening, sorry. Madam Mayor and Commissioner, the Police Department is requesting authority to apply for the 2021 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant in the amount of $30,016. On June the 8th of 2021, the Department of Justice released its annual allocations, and the city of Leavenworth was identified as eligible for that amount. This is an annual grant that's made available by the Justice Department to assist local law enforcement with offsetting costs of equipment. Typically, we've used this in past years for purchasing police equipment. The grant application requires the city of Leavenworth to share this allocation with Leavenworth County as they are categorized in the disparate grouping. The allocation based upon the formula which provides the city of Leavenworth would receive $18,000 and the Leavenworth County Sheriff's Department would receive $12,016. The city of Leavenworth must apply for that. Contained in your package is the agreement from Sheriff Dadeke that is the formula. There is no no matching funds for the city of Leavenworth pursuant to this grant. If you approve, the motion would be to authorize the police department to apply for the 2021 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant in the amount of $30,016, of which $12,016 would be given to the Leavenworth County Sheriff's Office. The action would require the city manager and city attorney to sign an interlocal agreement with Leavenworth County, and would further require the mayor to sign an additional document entitled Certifications and Assurances by the Chief Executive of the Applicant Government. So I would ask you to approve that, and I'll answer whatever questions that you might have.
Okay. Any questions, other Chief?
I know we've been able to apply and authorize the police department over the years to apply for this grant. How many years has it been going on, Chief? How many years have you been able to do that?
At least the time, right, at least the time that I've been the deputy chief in chief, so 20 odd years, something like that at least.
Good. All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is the amount of the grant based upon the size of the city or the police department?
We've never been quite sure about how to figure that out. They just essentially tell us, here's how much you get, and so apply for it. But it has been in this range for a very long time. I think last year was $24,000. I think that just sort of depends on how the economy is going and the federal budget's going, but this year it's a little higher than it was last year.
And can you just give a couple of examples of equipment that you purchased with this?
Yes, sir. So for example, if you recall, probably 6 weeks ago, I was here buying in-car camera equipment, and the allocation from the burn grant last year was applied to offset those costs.
Okay.
And we have, internally at the police department, identified this funding source going forward until we complete replacement of all of those, which I believe we're about halfway through. An in-car camera system cost a little more than $6,000, so we would be able to buy 3 systems with this allocation.
Thank you.
So no drones?
We got enough drones. Drone fleet is active.
Okay. Any other questions? Or comments? All right, would entertain a motion.
I'll move that we authorize the police department to apply for the 2021 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant in the amount of $30,016, of which $12,016 will be given to Leavenworth County Sheriff's Office.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please begin voting. Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
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 4-0. Thank you.
We ask that you amend that motion to also authorize the city manager and city attorney to sign the local agreement and the mayor to sign additional documents as stated in there. If you could
Yeah,
amend that.
as stated.
I will go ahead and amend my original motion to authorize the city manager and city attorney to sign an interlocal agreement with Leavenworth County, and also allow the mayor to sign an additional document entitled Certifications and Assurances by the chief executive of the applicant government.
Okay, thank you.
Second, yeah.
Okay, we're good. Now begin voting with Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Thank you.
We're good. Thank you, sir. All right, thanks, Mike. Acceptance of dedicated land for public use, the Branches Edition, number 3, final plat.
Madam Mayor and Commission, the plat before you tonight is a 45-unit single-family residential subdivision, 25 acres in size. And the purpose tonight of the commission, the action, is to accept the dedication of land for public purposes in the form of public utility easements and right-of-way that are associated with the plat. That is all you're doing, is accepting those pieces of property for public use. To give you a little bit of background on the subdivision, it is north of the existing Branches subdivision off 20th and Eisenhower, west of 20th Street. And as I think I've pointed out a couple times, the city set a 10-year record last year for new single-family home permits, and the addition of potential 45 more single-family units continues to show strong growth in the residential market. And so we're happy to have this plat come before the City Commission tonight to accept the dedication of land for public purposes. If you have any questions about the project or the process, the city attorney or I will be able to answer them.
And it's basically 25 acres in size that we're,
That's the size of the entire project, and you're just
25
approving
acres,
the,
yeah.
the utility
That's large.
easements and right-of-way.
okay, thank you. Okay, any questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I'll go ahead and move that we accept the dedication of land for public purposes as part of the final plat.
Second.
Okay.
No, I thought you were
I
adding
thought you were
on
still
to it.
talking.
No, I think that's all.
Okay.
Unless,
For the branches,
Oh, for the-
addition 3.
Yeah,
for the Branches Edition number 3, that's what
okay,
that last part of that motion.
thank you. And we have a motion and a second.
Yes, ma'am, yeah.
So please begin voting, Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
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 4-0, thank you. Consider cost share with USD 453 for drive improvements, Henry Leavenworth School.
Madam Mayor and Commission, I'm turn this over in just a second to our Public Works Director to go through the background and the issue. I just wanted to point out that the reason that there is a cost share, in front of you, which is not customary when there's a project on USD 453 property, is that early on, the City Commission and the School Board, Police Department, City Manager's Office have all been aware of a traffic issue out at Henry Leavenworth School. The issue primarily it involves stacking as parents come to pick up their children in the afternoons. And early on, the city recognized that this is a joint problem. This is a problem for the school district, it's a problem for the city. So we indicated early on that the city would be favorable to a cost share of some solution. And so this wasn't like the school district came up with something and then asked us for half. We've been working with them the entire time and indicated that we felt that a cost share was appropriate on a shared problem. So I just want to give you that background, and I'll turn over the actual presentation of the project to Mr. Faust.
Thank you. The issue before you this evening is consideration of a 50-50 cost share with USD 453 for a new bus lane entrance at Henry Leavenworth School. This additional bus lane will help reduce the volume of traffic that stacks on Violet Street. As you can see in the photograph, the new bus lane is just to the east of the existing entrance into the school. The current drive configuration internal to Henry Leavenworth Elementary School is not sufficient to handle both buses and personal vehicles picking up students during the afternoon dismissal. As a result, vehicles do stack west on Violet and down on 22nd. Residents in the area have expressed concern that emergency vehicles may not be able to reach properties on 22nd and further west on Violet. One of the reasons for the stacking is that parents picking up their children are not allowed to enter school property prior to the bus picking up the students. This is done to avoid conflicts between the school buses, personal vehicles, and the children. To help reduce these stacking concerns, USD 453 is constructing this new entrance off of Violet. This will allow parents picking up students to stack internal to the site in the parking lot at the same time buses are arriving and picking up students. While this won't eliminate all the stacking, drivers and residents will see improvements over the current conditions. USD did receive bids for construction of the new entrance, with the low bid submitted by Baker Construction. Bid amount for the construction was $53,337. A 50-50 cost share with the city and the school equates to $26,668.50 per party. Participating in this cost share will improve conditions and will reduce the short-term need for upgrades to Violet Street. Staff does recommend the City Commission participate in the 50-50 cost share with USD 453. To construct this new entrance, the cost should be a not-to-exceed amount of $26,668.50.
Any questions?
I have a comment. I understand the cost share. It's, two taxing entities. And at the end of the day, it comes out of the citizens' pockets. And I know that we've kind of committed to it, and I think, since we have, I think we will go forward with it. But I just think back to when we put in a sidewalk in front of Henry Leavenworth. I believe that we asked for a cost share, and the school district said, no, that's cities, that's not ours. And we actually did it for that. I hope this opens up the door for a bigger spirit of cooperation. Not that we don't have a good cooperation agreement with USD 453. But we're just playing with tax money one way, passing it around. The citizens are going to have to pay for it, and it's just an accounting procedure more than anything else. So, but we'll go with it. I'll vote for it. I just think it's a little bit hinky.
Yeah. Anything else?
Well,
Well, I do hope it alleviates the issues
Oh, yeah,
on
yeah.
Violet and 22nd
There is a
Street,
major problem there, and that'll
hopefully this will take care
that'll
of it.
help. And the moving of the kindergarten to Henry Lawson, that's 100 students, and that's probably at least, I'm just guessing, at least 30 cars a day that, say 30% of the kindergartners get picked up. So hopefully next year, will this be done this summer?
Yeah, actually, they anticipated being constructed by August 10th, about a week before when school starts.
Okay, so
That'd be good.
we
We'll
would
be
see
able
some
to see how
immediate
that
results.
works then.
Okay.
Okay, I'm looking forward to seeing how that works. All right, is there any more comments?
No, ma'am.
Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move to approve that the city commission participate in the 50-50 cost share with USD 453 to construct a new bus entrance to New Henry Leavenworth Elementary School. The city cost should be a not to exceed amount of $26,668.50.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please begin voting with Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
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 It passed 4-0. Thank you very much. Okay, next item on the agenda, 600 Cherokee renovation plan review.
Madam Mayor and Commission, I'll handle the start of this item, and then I will invite up the Mann family here. Flip computers here. Bear with me for a second. Okay. Madam Mayor and Commission, with this item, I thought it was appropriate, as this isn't something the city does all the time, although it is not uncommon for the city to incent develop in a variety of ways. So I thought I'd go through a little bit of some similar projects and then a little bit of an overview of sometimes of how economic development projects manifest. So the first thing it's important to know is that economic development incentives are complex. The city currently uses about 13 different tools. These are tools authorized by state statute, by city ordinance, tools common to pretty much every city, county in the country, if not the region. So I won't go through them all, but the city has, in the last couple years, we've done industrial revenue bond projects. We've done, it's been a while since we've done transportation development district, community improvement districts. We do those quite often. Tax increment financing, star bonds, and I won't go through them all, but the purpose of me outlining these is the difference a lot of times in the incentives is just when the incentive goes to the developer. So that could mean that a developer on a specific project has a need for an initial incentive, and that's not uncommon for us to do something to front load the incentive, if you will. Sometimes if a development has a loan or a debt that they've issued to do their project, they prefer property tax abatement or sales tax abatement over time, which would then help them with their annual debt obligations. So the next slide sort of really hones in on this, and this is the process that staff goes through before it reaches you. First thing we do is we identify the goal of the project, and it doesn't have to be just one. But among the goals of the project could be blight removal. The city tore down a structure at 3rd and Delaware. We use economic development funds set aside that are from the countywide sales tax. The city commission sets aside 15% of countywide sales tax funds for economic development and blight removal. So that was a structure in the middle, the heart of our downtown, around a new 3-star hotel, a movie theater that had made a substantial investment, and this was a blighted structure that showed no signs of doing anything, so we removed that. So that is oftentimes one of the goals of the projects. Residential growth, we do residential growth incentive deals. Commercial growth, we do deals residential for job retention and job creation. Luxury and imports, or ZEC Ford, those are both job retention, where we don't have somebody new coming in, but we have expansion of existing businesses, so we will do a development incentive agreement with them. Business retention, business creation, and also vibrancy, sales tax growth, complementary uses in areas. That would cover the Cadence development up next door to 2 hotels at 4th and Metropolitan. As we have 2 new hotels and we start looking for the Montessori school, the gas station, those are complementary uses. Corridor management, as we move down specific commercial corridors of the city that we want to see growth. So that's the first step we go through. Then we work with individual developers to identify resource gaps. And I spoke about that just a minute ago, but resource gaps are, where is the need for the developer? Is it upfront capital? Is it long-term reduction of obligations? And that can come through industrial revenue bonds. Price Chopper, for example, we did industrial revenue bonds to eliminate the sales tax they pay on construction materials. That's an upfront benefit that they're able to realize during the construction of their project. So that was a gap that we are able to fill with an industrial revenue project. We open the toolbox after we've identified the resource gaps, and we see what applies best. We work with the developer and the city commission, often our city attorney, to determine the correct tools to meet the resource gap in a mutually beneficial manner. Upfront capital needs, as I've mentioned, versus long-term cost needs, infrastructure needs. So this is a good example too. So the city of Leavenworth is constructing about 300 feet of reconstruction of Lakeview Drive for the Culver's project. Now on that project, they do not have any other incentives. There's no property tax abatement, there's no sales tax abatement, but they identified early on that the cost of the improvement of that road was a significant hurdle for them to take the first step in that development, which is a Culver's. So that's the incentive. That money was taken from a dedicated economic development source. That's not road money, that's not sidewalk money, that's not code enforcement or police or fire money. That is money set aside for economic development. So we have the ability to help those developers get into the community and overcome those initial hurdles. And then finally, what we do with the help, again, of the city attorney, is we create a contractual framework to set expectations, benchmarks, and responsibilities of all parties. Those are often 50-plus page documents. If you see the ZEC redevelopment agreement that we construct with Cadence for the front Fort Gate development across the street from the fort, and we go through that process so that we're all on the same page with what the expectations are for each project. So just in the last couple years, here are some recent economic development projects with incentives and or development agreements. So this is obviously something, my point with this slide is that we do this often. Northeast redevelopment, Northeast Leavenworth TIF, the downtown hotel TIF, which is the Home 2 Suites, ZEC Ford, Luxury and Imports. We had incentive deals with Benday Lofts, North Broadway Lofts, Abernathy Lofts. The Leavenworth Local is in the neighborhood revitalization area, which is a property tax tool, abatement tool. Price Chopper. I put the Carnegie Arts Loft project on this list because this is somewhat similar to the 600 Cherokee project in that it was city property. We didn't acquire this, but it was deeded to us, that we put out an RFQ, and then we ended up vetting proposals, setting expectations, and then that property was given at the cost of $1.
What property?
That was the Carnegie Art Center that is now the Lofts. Right. So the Hampton Inn, and then we have numerous smaller incentive programs that we do. This is just a few of them: Karma Cakes, First City Cheese Market, Young Sign Company, Z&M Twisted Vine, Straight Edge Barbershop. They all receive networked Kansas e-community loans. It's another tool that the city has to bring economic development. I want to highlight Maps Inc. for a second. This was a big one for us. This was the first company that we pried out of Johnson County. They came from Lenexa. It's 20 high-paying jobs. They're investing $1.2 million in a new facility in the Gary Carlson Park. And we did industrial revenue bonds. So we did a 60% property tax abatement. That still has to come to the commission, but we're in the contract negotiation part now to help them upfront with their costs. And over since 2019, the city did 27 small business improvement grants in 2019 and 2020, and 10 year-to-date in 2021. That is all done from that annual allocation for economic development that's set aside from the countywide sales tax. We told the public that if you extend this sales tax, that we will invest it in economic development, and we've done so with those grants. Just a quick overview, and I won't go through all these. Often these projects have a combination of incentives and then returns and considerations. It's important to point out 600 Cherokee is in the Neighborhood Revitalization Act, which is a property tax abatement just on the improvements that they make. The city still retains that base property tax amount that they're paying, that is paying right now. And consideration of discounted or free building or property. We also did that with a downtown hotel when the city bought the Knights Inn out of foreclosure. We sold that for far less than we purchased it because the cost even out of foreclosure was beyond what any developer would reasonably pay to have to redevelop that project. For the Northeast Leavenworth TIF, which is the home of 2 3-star Marriott hotels, the city acquired those properties, tore them down, and then moved forward with the development. It's simply the cost was too great for those hotel developers to purchase the property individually, bulldoze them, site grade, and then build. So that's where the city has to jump in and help. Again, these are some of the combinations we use, and this is meant to show you that every single project is considered on its own. We don't have one size fits all. We meet with the developer, we meet with the city attorney, myself, the assistant city manager, and we tailor each incentive proposal to each individual project. So I just highlighted 4 of these different tools that we use. The impact to our resources and the returns and considerations. Industrial revenue bonds is the same as providing upfront either land or a building or even cash incentives. We've given $50,000 a year for CPAC, which is the Consolidated Patient Account Center. It's a VA related facility. That obligation is over now, but we have done that in the past. Both of those are sources, foregoing sales tax and property tax, both are sources that fund basic city services. So that is something the city is giving up. They're just giving it up over time rather than all in one lump sum up front. So let's turn our attention to 600 Cherokee before I get into specifically the item on the agenda tonight. 600 Cherokee, these are a few examples, and we have some videos of the inside. There isn't anybody who's been in that building who doesn't realize that it is on the verge of collapse at some point. The picture on the far left will show essentially a waterfall coming in from the roof in the back as there was holes in the roof and water pouring in as it rained. The middle picture is one of the restrooms with the floor caving in into the basement. And the picture on the right shows the upstairs, and obviously the roof is collapsing and water's getting in and weighing in on the insulation, which is then pushing through the ceiling. A little bit of a summary of 600 Cherokee. For more than 12 years, the building has sat vacant and deteriorated constantly. The asking price of $205,000 has not moved. That was confirmed by developers. It was confirmed by Wendy at Main Street, who had taken many people in there and tried to work with the owner of that building. An out-of-town owner from Lawrence who was not interested in coming down. And the city purchased it, and so we have confirmed that that price was non-negotiable. The rehabilitation cost estimates are all over the place right now, but they range probably from $300,000 to $600,000. And that price makes the purchase and redevelopment financially infeasible for everybody who's looked at it over the last 12 years. The property has access to the NRA, Network Kansas loans, city grants, and yet all of that was not enough to balance the equation. The private sector has concluded over 12 years that this was not a developable project given the cost associated versus the potential revenue created. And I think 12 years is a pretty good amount of time to determine whether the private sector was able to make this a viable project. It is estimated that within 12 to 24 months after having the chief building inspector in there, the city would likely have had to consider court action related to potential demolition, and that would have left that city lot vacant. And getting infill, new building development in the historic downtown would have been extremely difficult, so you would have had a vacant lot there. It was the general consensus that given all of the options available, that this was the only option, the city purchasing this and issuing RFQs for developers that would ensure that the building at some point was put back into use. My final slide on this before I turn it over to the item on the agenda specifically is that we do consider return on investment. We don't just spend economic development dollars to remove blight. You could do that all day and your funds would dwindle. So what do we look at here? For this, the proposed use, and at this point it's just proposed use of a brewery, commercial space, and then 2 residential units. A conservative estimate would indicate that over about 5 years, 5.5 to 6 years, the city could conservatively receive about $40,000 per year in that revenue, which would pay for the purchase price of the building over time. 6 years in economic development, even if it's stretched to 7, is a very quick return. The city has been rebating sales tax to Home Depot for 20 years. And I think everybody would agree that having Home Depot in our community was well worth it. The tax increment financing districts and the CIDs are usually 20 to 22 year processes. So this is a pretty quick turnaround. What's before you tonight is not an agreement. There is nothing in place between the city and Mr. Mann about conditions of an agreement to redevelop 600 Cherokee. There's not a purchase price in place. There is not any talks of other investments by the city or incentives by the city. What you're simply doing tonight, following the presentation at the study session last week, is authorizing city staff to start the negotiation process with the Manns for the rehabilitation of this project. Any development agreement that's reached between the staff and Mr. Mann will come back to the commission and will be subject to transparency, to review. So there is nothing at this point to review. You're simply authorizing myself, Mr. Waters, Mr. Tedder, to start negotiations with the Manns on this project. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer them, and I know Mr. Mann is here tonight, too.
Thank you for that explanation. I think the general public needed to know that, and I'm really thankful that you put that together. We don't just give away property. Are there any other comments or questions?
I think it's a very good rundown, shows takes a little bit of money to make money or get our return on investment, and it is a blighted, as you pointed out, a blighted property that possibly could implode on itself. Like you talked about Third and Delaware, that we took it down. Please also remind everyone that we took it down after it had imploded on itself. It had caved in. We took it down as a safety measure. We hauled it away. It collapsed. We didn't want that with this, and we have potentially a good proposal here. And you talk about different incentives. Look at the front page of today's paper. City of Tonganoxie is giving away 68 acres in their industrial park for $100.
83 acres.
I thought it was 68. I thought that maybe it is 83, but $100 for that. And they're doing that because they're incenting a business to come in. And you can put the numbers to it, and it'll make sense. Not on day one, but probably at 5 years, 7 years, something like that. So that's what we do, and this is a very fair process for all involved, for the citizens as well as for the developers.
Anything
No,
else?
is there anybody in the audience that wants to come up and say anything, either in support or in opposition to this initiative?
This is just our, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, is there anybody
I
that,
think,
from the audience, who wants to come up and either offer any comments of support or opposition to this initiative?
I
That's all.
think we got that before, honestly.
There's somebody.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I would strongly object to this.
Okay.
Okay.
So like, I would have to ask a lot of questions, like what do that? And I don't know Mann's from anybody else, but, well,
State your name and address.
Michael Bunch, 1324 Fifth Avenue.
Thank you, Mike.
I would have to look at what do the developers have to gain from this. I mean, a lot of the numbers out there are just estimates. I mean, who's to say there's really gonna be a brewery there, or what's development, what is actual costs? I mean, those things you'd probably look at more carefully in a negotiation, I'm assuming. But I'd like to have a lot more information about this before any kind of decision is made. It's just my opinion. I mean, yes, we have a dilapidated property. Yes, it needs to be revitalized. Tearing it down, put an empty lot there that may get developed is probably not necessarily the best way to go either. But at the same time, I mean, what's our assurances as taxpayers that something that our tax dollars spent $205,000 on is going to get something that's beneficial for the people and not just the developers?
Well, that's why
That's
there
my
is
concern.
that's why there is a contract,
Yeah,
Okay.
that's part of the
development
negotiation.
contract. It's part of what needs to be done. There's a timeline, there's everything on that.
And that will come back to us. They will negotiate it, and we'll have to determine if it is a fair deal for all involved.
And would you go before the people and ask this, or just the small group that's allowed to attend these meetings?
Well,
I
they
think
can,
we handle it as a normal course of business. in the
yeah,
city.
anybody from the public can reach out, email or call if they have any concerns, any oppositions, and state, whether they agree with it or
I
not.
reached out to all of you, none of you responded.
When have you reached it? Okay.
I reached out to every one of you via email, and none of you responded.
You called me?
No, via email.
I
I don't have a phone number for you. The only thing is the email on the website for the city commission.
Yeah, my personal cell phone's online, but I'll be more than happy to talk to you after this meeting.
Okay, because I reached out to everybody and nobody even had the courtesy to even respond.
Yeah, just
About,
That's why I'm here tonight, because I
in
wanted to hear.
terms of what we did as far as the return on investment, yes, it's a modeling technique that is commonly used by economic developers. And I think that, may not have exactly those businesses, but it's in the ballpark. It's a pro forma, and that's the way that economic development proceeds in a city or any type of professional economic development organization. So I thank the city manager, who I think probably, had some requests from some commissioners to go ahead and kind of lay that out, because I did see your email and I was, concerned. And so just to let you know that there are no guarantees in this business, but I think we've done our due diligence up to this point.
I see your email too, Mr. Bunch. The only question you ask is, I myself would also question who is getting paid under the table on this deal.
It seems pretty
And that's the
shady
only
to
question
me.
I ever see, yeah.
Pretty shady.
Offer a dollar for something our tax dollars spent $205,000. I mean, to me, that's a taxpayer. That's an insult. That's just,
Pretty
What do you,
shady.
what do you think we paid for the
Here's
hotel
some under
property?
here.
What do you think we
Wait,
paid for the
could you-
hotel property at Third and Delaware or at Fourth and
it
Metropolitan?
was probably the same situation. You bought it for a huge dollar amount and gave it away.
How did
That's
it
our-
work
that's our
out?
tax
Mr.
dollars.
Bunch? How did it work out?
Hey, there's no need to go back and forth.
No, there
That's-
isn't.
yeah.
I think we've
Yeah.
covered it. I got your email, I forwarded it to the city manager, and
Okay.
one of the things that he has explained everything very well tonight. And I don't see, we're totally transparent here. We're not doing anything under the table, and we're not giving away property. And I take offense to that.
Sure feels like it.
Whatever, you can feel whatever you want. I think we're done here.
Could Ms. Scheit come up and just speak to this property in terms of what's happened over the last 10 or 12 years, very briefly? Ms. Scheit?
Mike, you should let me do that.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Okay.
Wendy Scheit, the Leavenworth Main Street Director. I believe this property has been vacant since I took over the Director of Main Street in late 2006. We waited, sometimes it wasn't on the market. Every once in a while there'd be a realtor. I reached out personally to those realtors and have been told lots of things, and Bach Powers was the last realtor. I did meet with, picked up even a key in Lawrence for a downtown business owner to take a look at it. So nothing really happened on the property, and it seemed the last few years we got more and more interest. Some folks I knew probably couldn't do the project. They just wanted to go in and do a little paint up, fix up. And I said, hey, it has to be brought up to code. I would hate to turn the plumbing on because it's been off for so long. The electricity has been shut off. And so, I sent Paul several emails saying, it's just, here we go. Here's another investor that we've lost for the property. And I had no idea you all were going to look at buying it. You did, and I reached out to the folks that I had worked with that I thought could have the ability to renovate this property and bring it back to a really great property on Cherokee. Darren and I have worked together on several IWW loans. He has totally transformed the 700 block of Shawnee. When I came, Gators was there, the pawn shop was across the street, Vetters was there, they hadn't improved it, but they always keep it nice. Tom and Ann's was there and a couple other businesses. So when that structure that had one burn building and I guess that's 726, 728 Shawnee, I had sent the city manager a request, and I don't know if it was Paul then or if it was your predecessor, to not put it on the demo list, to wait. We, would do everything we could, because that's what Main Street does. We're historic preservation as well. So Darren came in and purchased that building, and it is just totally lovely. It's got 4 beautiful lofts upstairs, 2 storefronts in the commercial area. It's consistently been rented. Then he looked at, I think Mr. Ramos bought a property on 4th Street, and Darren bought that property. So it went from a pawn shop with bars on the windows to a beautiful laundromat that was really needed. I knew that he had really wanted to open a laundromat, a service for the community. And so he transformed that building and has another space available there. So everything that Darren touches, he really cares about the community. He really cares about historic preservation. We communicate about that. You know, I've given the resources with the Kansas State Historic Society because we work with them often. And I did confirm today that it is a contributing property eligible for state and federal tax credits, which will be, you know, important. I've worked somewhat with tax credits and they're great to work with. So there are some other entities that he'll be working with too. But I certainly believe with his development experience and his passion and dedication for historic buildings in the commercial area that this one will come together and we'll be proud of that corner once again. It will certainly add to the 600 block of Cherokee, add to the entire downtown. And
Thank you, Ms. Shai, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Like we said before, nothing is decided tonight. This is just moved to authorize a development agreement that we will see later. So if there are any other questions or comments,
No, ma'am.
I would ask for a motion, please.
I'll move to authorize staff to develop and negotiate a development agreement with Mr. Mann for acquisition, preservation, and redevelopment of 600 Cherokee.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please begin voting. Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
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 That's 4-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, bids, contracts, and agreements. Consider a contract with Alfred Benish Company and Company for 2021 biennial bridge inspection services.
Our Public Works Director, Brian Faust, will handle this item.
Thank you.
Thank you. The item this evening is the consideration and possible award of a contract for our 2021 biennial bridge inspection to Alfred Benish and Company. The Federal Highway Administration has issued national bridge inspection standards that both states and localities must comply with. Cities that own bridges that are not on the state system are responsible for these inspections, and they are required at a minimum of every 2 years. There are 39 bridges located within the city limits that are being inspected with this project. Of the 39 bridges, 26 are on the National Bridge Inventory. In April of this year, staff sent out a request for qualifications to engineering firms interested in the project. We did receive 2 proposals. Based on staff's evaluation of the proposals, Alfred Benish was the selected firm. Alfred Benish and Company has highly qualified inspection teams, and they have completed numerous bridge inspections across the state of Kansas and across the country. Staff does recommend the City Commission approve the contract submitted by Alfred Benish and Company for the 2021 biannual bridge inspection program in an amount not to exceed $37,680.
Okay. Any questions or comments on this?
How many
Pretty cut and dry.
I've got a question. How many
Yes, sir.
bridges do we have in the city?
We have 39, 26 of them are actually on the national inventory.
Mr. Fowles, if we approve this, how long does it
Yeah.
take them to complete the inspections?
Actually, it'll be completed this summer. It's required that they be entered into the KDOT system later this fall.
Does a member of your staff go with them while they're doing the inspections, or you just?
Typically, yes. We have one of our inspectors that's very familiar with the city will go at least the first time. If the firm, if they're selected for this and it's renewed in 2 years, they'll hopefully know the city a little bit better. Yeah, we have people available.
And this does not include the Centennial Bridge?
That's correct.
Okay.
All the bridges over the 3 Mile Creek and 5 Mile Creek, pretty
That's
much, right?
pretty much, yeah, that's pretty much where they all are.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we, the City Commission, approve the contract submitted by Alfred Benish and Company for the 2021 biennial bridge inspection services in an amount not to exceed $37,680.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please begin voting. Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
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 4-0. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, consent agenda.
I move to approve the claims for June 5th, 2021 through June 18, 2021, in the amount of $1,127,816.30. Net amount for payroll number 12, effective June 18, 2021, in the amount of $356,872.71. Includes police and fire pension in the amount of $8,804.19.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please begin voting. Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye, sorry.
Thank you. All right. That completes everything on our agenda. Mr. Kramer.
We do have a couple items. I'd like to give the public and the commission just a quick update. We've talked a lot about the reconstruction of 4th Street through the downtown. But I think there's sometimes a question of when is it actually gonna start, because we talk about when is it gonna go under design, when's the construction. We did hit a milestone, this past week where we did receive 6 proposals, design proposals from design firms. So staff will evaluate those. Those do have to be approved by KDOT, the ultimate selection, because it's a KDOT project. And so as a reminder, design proposals, right now, select a design firm, then a contract will come before the commission late summer for a design firm, design about 6 months or so, and then we'll start construction sometime next year. So that's been consistent the whole time, but I think sometimes we lose track of maybe where those are. So reconstruction of 4th Street from Choctaw to Seneca through the downtown, design this year, construction next year. I did also want to indicate that through individual conversations with city commissioners, we do have a consensus to bring the chief to a study session, which we will do on July 6th, to talk about some options for the problems we're seeing at Doherty Park with some of the homeless encampment. As Wendy could speak to, over the last 5 years, we've had flare-ups happen in different areas. A couple years ago, we had some downtown business owners who had a lot of problems with vagrancy and people sleeping in doorways. That has largely been alleviated. I'm not going to say it's gone away. But the problem of the day has been some homeless encampments under bridges, which the city remedied last week with a big removal. But then also the presence of the homeless at Bob Doherty Park under the park shelter. So there are some legislative things that the city could look at, so I won't get it too far ahead of myself, but we will be putting that on the study session for July 6th. Next week is a 5th Tuesday, so we don't have a meeting next week, so I just want to give you and the public a heads up on that.
Good,
I'd
I'm
like
glad
to
to see we're doing that.
Right, and we have some, we've been working on this for a while, so we have some options for the commission. I'd like to thank the public for their patience with Woolman Pool. Of course, the hottest time of the year, we had to shut the pool down. Unfortunately, we had some clear glass in there. We did have one injury, and we just couldn't be sure through vacuuming that we got it all. So we had to drain the pool, and we had to fill the pool back up. It reopened on Monday. Staff worked over the weekend, so we apologize, but there was just no way around that for the safety of our children and our families. And then finally, I didn't know, Mayor Bowder, if you were going to hit on this, but Mayor Bowder and I attended the change of command ceremony today for the Garrison Commander of Fort Leavenworth. The city had an amazing relationship with Colonel Harry Hung, who was the Garrison Commander for the previous 2 years. He was instrumental in securing the Higher Ground Montessori School that's going in the Cadence development up north. And the new Garrison Commander, Colonel John Meisenheimer, took duty today. So we look forward to working with Colonel Meisenheimer going forward. And then just the last reminder that there is no meeting next week on the 29th, as it is a 5th Tuesday. That's all I have.
Okay. Any other comments? Commissioner Preisinger.
Quick question, Mr. Kramer, on 4th and Eisenhower, that intersection. I know it's a KDOT and Lansing project, and we're throwing in a little bit. You have any idea when that might be going? Looks like they're doing some locates or something here recently.
Yeah, right now they're doing utility relocations. Lansing's already ordered the traffic signals. I guess it's a long lead item. So don't know when it'll start, but fairly quickly, we hope.
Yeah, I think we all know that's a very troublesome intersection now with Quick Trip, the car wash, TSC, and I know many people look forward to when it is complete. Thank you. Nothing else.
Okay.
Just a quick question for Mr. Kramer. Just a quick assessment of how the development at 7th and Metropolitan is going, the Fort Gate development. Is it proceeding pretty much as we envisioned and what we're contracted
Right, the only thing that we haven't seen is that fourth pad site. That was originally to be a Jimmy John's, and that was an internal decision by them at that point. And so they're still trying to fill that fourth and final pad site. I still believe that the hope is to open the higher ground Montessori school in time for the class this fall. And everything else seems to be moving well. From some initial weather delays, other than that, it's gone very well.
Taco Bell looks like it's open. I mean,
Yeah,
I know
It
we
would
got a
be-
sign saying they're hiring, I know
It would
that.
be great to have a Chick-fil-A or
We're
something
trying,
like that in there.
yeah.
A lot of people have talked to me about
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I know they're actually gonna be hiring right there at the Taco Bell as well as the Dairy Queen downtown. I know so many people have reached out and was asking about when is it gonna open, and they're wondering when, or can they get some people to sign up that wanna work, get some people employed,
We
so.
need Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
That's the
I need
first
it.
time in 75 years it probably hasn't
I
opened.
know. I need it.
Yeah,
Thank
so jobs are available for those that are interested.
Okay.
People are hiring.
Any other comments for this evening? I don't have anything. And you talked about what I did, so I'm glad that's coming up. Thank you all for coming. Motion to adjourn.
So, second.
Second, third.
Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.